Everybody, welcome back to the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. Nick Farabaugh here with you guys. I have a flight for Jacksonville tonight. However, before I do that, I'm here and we're going to talk about the preseason game a little bit. Players I am watching, I am looking for a few different things. But with the Jaguars playing their starters and the Steelers not playing most of their starters, it actually creates some interesting matchups, I think, beneficial to the Pittsburgh Steelers for purposes of evaluating their talent. Um, the big thing that I'm looking forward to, and the matchup that I'm looking forward the most to, Broderick Jones versus Josh Hines Allen. I think this is a really fun matchup to look at. When you look at that matchup, it is a top 15 edge rusher that Broderick Jones is getting, coming off three of his best days at training camp. He had the three best days at training camp. Um, there's no question about it. He had his three best days at training camp this week. When the pads finally popped on, the groin healed a little bit. It felt like he started knocking things into place a little bit. And so let's see if this continues. Cautious optimism with Broderick Jones. It needs to translate onto the football field, but he gets a very tough matchup in Josh Hines Allen. So hello, barometer. You got it, right? Is this going to be an issue for the Steelers? Or is this something that maybe there's more positivity that needs to be going around? And I'll say this, Troy Fautanu will also get Trayvon Walker, two good players on the edge for these Jaguars. So even if it's 1 to 2 series for those players, I'm still looking forward to seeing a few of these pass blocking snaps that these guys have. Because I think it's such a huge part of this season for the Steelers. They need this offensive line to click. If this offensive line isn't good, it really doesn't matter on a lot of respects for different things. It has to be good for this offense to reach a different ceiling than they had last year. And so that group's something I'm just looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to seeing guys like Eric Armstead face off against guys like Mason McCormick. I just really am excited to see these young Steelers offensive linemen. I think that is going to be such a huge part of what the Steelers are this year and how their offense plays. So let's keep an eye on the offensive line. They're drawing a really tough matchup. Similarly, I'm interested in seeing the corners. Even if it's just Brandon Eccles, James Pierre, Beanie Bishop, I mean, they're going to get guys like Travis Hunter. They're going to get Brian Thomas Jr. So a lot of really good players on that Jaguars wide receiver room. Diami Brown even, has the ability to win down the field and is a man coverage eater in terms of his ability to win on slot fades and slants. So good matchup for Beanie Bishop in coverage. So those are some matchups I'm just looking forward to right off the rip. In terms of what I actually want to see from the Steelers, it's not all kind of based on matchups. While matchups in this game are going to be cool, right? Because you get to see some of those that I mentioned. I'm also just looking for players to step up. And, I want to see, for example, Caleb Johnson. He's somebody that I think is really fun to watch on the practice field. But how does the pass pro translate onto an actual live stadium field? I think that is one of the biggest questions of this preseason. Because if it translates a little better than you think it does right now, because he has really started to kind of heat up um, as a as a kind of pass protector in these backs on backers drills. He has started to really find his groove. The first day was a disaster. He was willing, and that's never been the question. He's always been a willing blocker, and that's where the kind of optimism comes from here is that he's such a willing learner and such a willing blocker that you hope he finds himself. But even more so, how does it translate to IDing blitzes, IDing fronts? Um, Kind of reading what you see from blitz packages and IDing that toughest blitzer, and then really executing the proper technique to pick up that defender. Because we see it all the time with Jalen Warren, and it was rare for someone like Jalen Warren, who's an undrafted free agent, to just come in and say, "Man, he's ready to go right away in pass pro." It just doesn't happen that like that. And so let's see how Caleb Johnson looks there in terms of running the football. Obviously, that's going to be something that I think people are going to want to see, but I think he will be more than up to that task. He's a really sturdy runner, runs behind his pads. He's got nice speed in the open field. I keep saying this, The Steelers have GPS data on Caleb Johnson, and it was 22 miles per hour. Guys, that's the same miles per hour that DK Metcalf ran. So the guy can run. So he's got home run hitting ability. Maybe we'll see that, maybe we won't. But either way, I'm excited to see what Caleb Johnson can do. I'm excited to see the what Roman Wilson can do. I think this is really his first extended in stadium reps. He's a guy that only played 5 snaps last year against the Raiders, and one of those snaps he had pretty good block to spring a run. But how does he look here? He's going to draw guys like Tyson Campbell and maybe Travis Hunter. He's going to play a heck of a lot, and so let's see. He's going to play outside and inside. Let's see this good week that started on the Steelers' practice field in Latrobe translate into a stadium. I want to see Roman Wilson have a few nice catches. I want to see him throw a few nice blocks. I want to see the offensive contributions that say, this guy looks like a wide receiver three type that can be a legitimate answer to some of their questions offensively this year. They need Roman Wilson to be good. No Calvin Austin, no DK. He's the wide receiver one. He's probably going to be running out there with Ben Skowronek, Robert Woods, Brandon Johnson, and those types. So I want to see him look different than those players. I want to see him look like he belongs on a starting offense. I think that's what I'm looking for. And so he's someone that I think really needs to have a good week. And he could put a cherry on top of that with a really nice game here on Saturday. So really looking forward to seeing what Rowan Wilson can do. The Steelers are probably going to keep it pretty vanilla schematically. So, all the things we talked about with like moving fronts, disguises, I don't think we're going to see a ton of that today on Saturday. Um, I am interested to see kind of how Jack Sawyer plays, and obviously Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black. Black is probably the one I'm most interested to see in the game, mainly because I'm wondering how his play on the practice field actually translates into a game. He's been so good in Latrobe, and honestly, I just didn't expect it. I knew there was potential there, but having the ability to bat down balls like he has, having the ability to just eat gaps. He's had some really impressive reps out there. And so he is someone that I'm just really looking forward to seeing play because he is such a mammoth player and could be such an intriguing piece to this defensive line that they didn't have last year. A space eater that can really be a run defense boost. I think that is something that they needed last year. And obviously now I think maybe they could do that this year. If they could have that in their repertoire, it gives them better chances against teams in the playoffs like the Ravens, for example. So let's see how Y.A. Black looks. And then the last thing I'm just really excited to look forward to, Peyton Wilson getting a shot at the green dot. Obviously, he wasn't the green dot last year. It was continuously Patrick Queen. I think PQ is like fine green dot, but I also think I know what he looks like when he gets off that green dot and can just play free. And he looks like a human missile flying around out there. And so I think if you can get PQ maybe even off the green dot a little bit, I'm sure that Peyton Wilson, if they ever take PQ off the field, Peyton Wilson is naturally your green dot guy, anyways. So let's see how the communication looks when he's the quarterback of the defense. It's going to be a fascinating experiment because I think Peyton Wilson has looked really good in camp. I think he was fairly steady down the stretch last year, very quietly, very steady last year, and most of his run defense, even pass defense. There were a few rookie mistakes, but I thought he was pretty good as the season went along. So let's see how year two looks. And with that green dot in hand, I think that's a really big opportunity for a guy like that. All right, folks, I will be back tomorrow. I am heading to Jacksonville this evening, and then I will walk you guys over to the game with me. We will talk pregame, we will talk postgame, and we will go through the Steelers' first preseason game down in Jacksonville. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell for more.